Good morning to you once more. If you've had little children of your own, or if you've been around parents who are new parents, you know the anxiousness that comes along with that. And one of the ways that anxiousness plays out is that there are some people you just don't really want around your brand new baby. I remember watching horrified when our oldest son Levi was about 6 months old, as a lady who I knew to be basically homeless scooped ice cream out of a dish with her finger and put that finger into his mouth. And it took all of my pastoral composure to, remain to myself. There are some people who are sometimes great people. This was a lovely lady. Some people who are great, who you just don't want around your brand new baby. For Mary and Joseph, in those hours after Jesus was born, shepherds were those people. For one thing, shepherds were dirty. They spent all their time in fields around sheep. Sheep are gross, and so they probably didn't smell that great. They were probably a little bit filthy. But more than that, shepherds were mistrusted. They were considered to be a little shifty. Their motives were suspect. These were people who had a really important job. Everybody needed them, an important role in society, but nobody wanted to see them or interact with them. And some of you probably feel that. You have an important job that everybody depends on, but nevertheless, nobody notices you or takes you seriously. Or maybe you have an important role in your family, the peacemaker, the fixer when things go wrong, that nevertheless brings you into the line of fire, you might say. Today we're talking about being marginalized as we continue to work our way through this sermon series that we've called Christmas Survival Guide. All these participants in the Christmas story and looking at the things that they bring into it, the things that they struggle with, and how those struggles might mirror our challenges, in order to look at how we can come through this Christmas season, not just surviving it, but even with some hope, some joy, some peace, all these things that we talk about. And today we're looking at these shepherds as they're marginalized. That's kind of a buzzword right now, marginalized, but it speaks to something that a lot of us feel. It means to be othered, to be cast out. Christmas time kind of brings that out in so many of our families and our relationships. It highlights or intensifies some of those existing tensions or fault lines. And the experience of these shepherds is going to help us think about what hope we have, what we can lean on in those situations of being othered or marginalized. Because it can't be without meaning that this news comes to those people. News that everyone had been waiting for. All of the Jewish people had been waiting for. The Christ, some of our translations say the Christ, the one the angel says has been born, means the anointed one. It's the Greek form of the Hebrew, the Old Testament word, Messiah, which means the sent one, the one God promised to send, the one everyone had been waiting for and watching for thousands and thousands of years. So this is really important news. And when it comes, when it's time to announce it, there are kings around and there are governors there, all sorts of high political officials. There are plenty of religious leaders also around. The whole town is literally full. There's no room in the inn, remember? The whole place is full. There are people, important people, everywhere. And yet, this big news is revealed first to these shepherds, the ones who are alone, out in a field, who no one wants anything to do with, the ones who are mistreated and kept at arm's length. It's for everyone, but it's first for them. They're ignored or worse by everyone around them. They're shut out or just kind of part of the furniture to everyone in town. but God sees them and works through them. And here's one important implication of that for us. A gentle reminder: be careful who you other. If there's someone or a group of people, maybe a type of person who you're keeping at arm's length, or someone you would make assumptions about if they walked through the door right now, be careful about that. God is looking at them. He sees them. That person is someone Jesus arrived for. This season of Jesus coming, it was for them too. That is a person that Jesus gave his life for. And one way or another, they just might be part of God's plan. And so you don't have to agree with them. You don't have to affirm their choices. You don't even have to be close friends with that person. But be careful who you marginalize. Let's be that place. Let's be those people. Let's behave here as God does and receive every person that we come around. Certainly every person who comes through these doors, let's receive them as someone that Advent is for. That means someone that Jesus came for and died for and who God just may be working through. Let's have that be our mindset. Let's be careful who we other. Now, what if you are the othered one? What if you're the one in class who no one talks to? Or if they do, it's only to make sure that you know that you're different and weird. Or you're grown up now, so no one is teasing you directly, but you know what? The othering behaviors, they never really go away, do they? They just kind of change form. Maybe you carry some wounds from some of those school cafeteria experiences. Plenty of us do. Or somewhere along the line, you got crossways with some coworker, and so now there's a whisper campaign and sides being taken. Here at this time of gathering and get-togethers, maybe you're the person who's sitting here today just 3 days before Christmas, whose phone has not rung yet, whose invitations are not coming, and they're not going to, for one reason or another. If that's where you are, I just want to acknowledge none of this is going to do anything about how your sister-in-law feels toward you or how your coworker treats you. It's not going to make the locker room any easier. We can't control anyone else. We can't make them accept us. But allow me to do just this. Allow me to apply that same truth that's true of others we might push aside to you. You are someone Jesus came for. You are someone Jesus gave his life for. Someone who is part of his plan. You have a place in that plan. God sees you, and you have a place with him. All of that means you have some value. You have some worth to God, the creator, the orderer of the universe. Value and worth that cannot be diminished by someone else's slight. You have value. And by the way, if you're here with us today or if you're watching online and you're still not quite sure about all this Jesus stuff, I still think there's something worthwhile for you here. You don't have to be on board with Jesus to get something out of this. Let me say it this way. We believe you have value and worth. The actions of Jesus, the birth and the life that we're celebrating, even if you aren't yet, we believe that it says you have value and you have worth. And so I invite you just to try that idea on for size, even before you're ready to accept the whole thing. Let's look again at one more aspect of God showing up for these shepherds, because I want you to see the full picture of how God feels toward you if you are marginalized. We'll look at one more piece of that. Then we're going to end by thinking about how we might respond in those moments of being shut out or offended. All right, so one more piece of this. Look again at what Luke records about the moment of this announcement. An angel appeared, and that's not a super rare occurrence, but it doesn't happen all the time. Depending on how you count it, about 60 or 70 times in all of the Bible. That is about 6,000 years, only 60 or 70 times that happens. An angel appeared, and Luke says, the glory of the Lord shone around him. That's not accidental language. And it's more than just a way of talking about some bright lights. That's the way it's usually depicted in paintings or images that we see, some bright light. And there probably was some of that. But the glory of the Lord is a thing, an entity almost, a force, you might say. The glory of the Lord is what gets the slaves out of Egypt and guides them in the desert. And the glory of the Lord is what goes before them as they go into battle against other armies, allowing them to conquer even much larger armies than they are. So we could summarize this. When Luke says the glory of the Lord appeared to them, we could summarize it like this. We could say an angel appeared to these shepherds, and the mighty, protective, full force power of God was with them. Then something else happens. The mighty, full force power of God is there, but also not just one angel, many, many angels. The army of heaven, the full host of heaven is there with them. So in other words, this is unique. This is powerful. This is the full presence of God. Here's what I take away from that. Here's what I want to share with you that I hope will be of some help to you. When we say God sees you, I want you to apply all of that. I want you to recognize and rest in, to draw strength from the full scope of what that means, that God is with you and God sees you. It's not a passing glance. It's not a token appearance. I heard a story once about a group of bikers, I think a part of the Hells Angels. They do a thing. What they do is they go to court appearances alongside children who have been abused. And so imagine that. Imagine walking into court to face an abuser, a really vulnerable moment, but doing it with a biker gang behind you and in front of you and on both sides. Imagine the confidence that comes out of that, the power that's in that. And imagine the statement that it makes. That's kind of how God shows up for these shepherds. And when you are marginalized, that's how he shows up for you. I'm going to say that again. That image that's in your head right now as you're thinking about that biker gang and the power of that, when you are marginalized, when you are pushed to the side, that's how God shows up for you. That's what we mean when we say God is with you in this. Not just a little thing or a pat on the shoulder. It is the full force, protective, mighty power of God that is with you. When you are shut out, when you are cold-shouldered, God is with you in full force, in his full presence. No half measures for you. He loves you too much for that. The powerful, active orchestrator of the universe is there with you. The one who guides and protects, who brings down kingdoms and kings, that's the one who shows up for you. He's the one at your side. I think that's why the shepherds responded in the way that they did. This is where I want to end. I want to propose to you what your response might be in the face of being marginalized. The shepherds, Luke says, hurry to the place where they've been told that the Christ baby will be, the sent one, where they've been told that he will. Of course they hurry there, why wouldn't they? But it's what they do next that really intrigues me. Luke says they went away glorifying God. Means they were saying praises, they were maybe singing some, perhaps they were using some parts of some worship services that they'd heard before. They were doing all of this to give glory to God. These people who were outcasts, who were looked down on, who had just received the most incredible news first before anyone else. They walk away not with resentment or pain at the way that they've been treated. They walk away not plotting their revenge now that they've been elevated, how they're going to get even with everybody who stepped on them. None of that stuff. They walk away giving glory to God. It reminds me of another interaction that Jesus had many years later with a woman, an outcast woman. Some of you know her as the woman at the well, a woman full of shame, totally cast out from her people because she was on her sixth man. And after Jesus says to her the promise of God's reconciliation, of his welcome, after he says to her, that promise is for you too, she goes to her village. In other words, she goes right to the people who just days or hours before had been crossing the street to walk away from her, had been casting sideways glances, ugly looks in her direction. She goes right to them. And she tells them about this Jesus who she met. And that's incredible enough, but here's where it gets really incredible. These people who just, again, hours ago wouldn't have anything to do with her, now they can't get enough of her. They can't get enough of her story about this Jesus who she's met. The whole town, it says, shows up to hear about this from that woman. Why? Not because she changed. She didn't change that much in those few hours. Guy number 6 probably still waiting for her at home. Not because she had changed, but because Jesus was with her. And she had been with Jesus. And that love and that joy that is a part of that interaction was radiating out from her. Could not help from overflow from her. So if you're being marginalized right now, if you're being shut out, do what the shepherds did and what this woman did. And glorify God. What does that mean? In your actions and your responses, make them to be Jesus-like responses of kindness and gentleness. And in your conversations and your reactions, magnify Jesus. That is, talk about his power in your life, the impact that he's made, and all the good that you get out of your relationship with him. Talk about that, magnify that, respond in that way, and watch the good news thaw those frozen relationships. Some of you are discouraged in this moment. You heard me say that, and it hit you because you've tried it a lot. Thank you, Levi. You've tried it a lot. You've tried to respond in the right ways, in the positive ways, and things are still icy. And let me tell you, I know it. I feel your pain. It doesn't always happen one afternoon like it did for this woman. I wish it did, but it doesn't work that way. But the good news of Jesus is with you. Jesus is with you, and the joy and the peace and the confidence that cannot help but accompany that, cannot help but overflow from that joy and that peace and that confidence does change hearts and minds, and only ever in one direction. Only ever does the gospel of Jesus, the good news of Christ, change things only in a positive direction. And so do that. Remember, when you are marginalized, you're not there alone. You are with the full force power of God, the mighty, protective, full company of heaven power of God. And so you can do this thing. You can respond in that Jesus-like way over and slowly, and you can watch it change hearts and relationships. I know it. I believe it. It might be slow progress, but God in his full force and his full power is with you because you have value to him. So rest in that assurance. Glorify him in your actions and your responses and your conversations, and wait for it to do its work. It will, because God is faithful. In his name, amen.